Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob?
I mean, some of you might be like,
Continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive. She's.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast. I actually recorded this episode a few hours ago with my dear friend Brie, and then I had to run over to F45 to do some things to get ready to kick off our 45-day challenge. But during that time, I was sitting with what happened during the intro in a very unscripted moment where I didn't fully honor how Brie likes to be identified. And the way Brie brought it to my attention was so beautiful, so gracious, so understanding. And I kept it in there because I feel like this is something we all need to be a little bit more aware of and keep it front of mind, because that's not something I deal with in my everyday life. And so it's not something I'm conscious of all the time. And so I was so grateful the way that Brie brought it up. And we were able to talk through it and then get right back to the episode, because it has nothing to do with what we actually talked about during the episode. And so I also wanted to preface that so that way you get to the actual message that Brie wants to share, because it is that important. And it's exactly what we need to be hearing and getting prepared for in the world that we live in today. So I will get right to the episode. Hope you enjoy and sit through the cringe that was my very unscripted moment. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast. I have such a dear friend, fellow lightworker, all of the amazing qualities this woman possesses. This is the lovely Brie, and her and I go back to 2023. Is that when we first connected, maybe? Or it was maybe before that.
2023.
I think that's when we started our program with
Unleashed.
Amber.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unleashed.
So,
Circle and then Soul Seed Awakening.
yes. So her and I did a year-long program with Amber. And so obviously got to spend a lot of time with each other every week and got to go on one retreat together. We were in Mexico together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's where I had to borrow your clothes and long story. But anyway, her and I, we've been following each other. We support each other. Her posts always resonate with me and vice versa. And she's also a supporter of the Tami Talks podcast. She's a Patreon. So I just thank you so much for supporting this mission. I was going to say message and mission, and then I combined words. So that's the kind of day I'm having. But it was obviously time, because we have been playing this "you should be on the podcast" game for a while, and things are coming up for you. And then obviously got stuff going on with the gym. And it just so happened, I was thinking, was that last night? Yesterday? That I was like,
yesterday, I think.
Hey, like, I responded to one of her messages, like, let's get you on the calendar. I'm like, I could do as early as Sunday morning, or it's just like, that works. So here we are. Very impromptu, very unscripted, the way I like it. And the timing of her being on, because she has something that she can share with all of you about upcoming challenge, is divine as always. So welcome, Brie, to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast.
You.
Yay!
I'm happy to be here. I love, because we can play inner child to inner child, and so I always feel so connected to you and like high vibe. And even when we were on retreat, we would just end up on the beach meeting at the same time, and I was just like, oh my god,
Yep.
hello.
Yes. And you just have one of the most, I don't know, like, you just ooze authenticity and this permission for people to step in to who they truly are. And I know that's been a journey for you to get to this place, but you can't help but just feel joy when you're around, and again, wanting to just be who you truly are. And so let's start there, of just kind of what that journey has been like for you to get to this place where now because you've made quite the transformation in just like in career and everything. So we'll touch on all of that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think that's important to mention here, just I guess just for inclusion, my pronouns right now are they, them. So that's been part of the journey for me, is to just, but it doesn't trigger me. It's like, it's fine. But at the same time, my soul at that level is androgynous. And so
Yes.
I like to flow.
I love that. And thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Because that's a shift for all of us, right? And
I have a friend who goes by she, they, and I just find it like, I'm like, okay, now I understand what people have to go through when they're trying to like use the correct pronouns, because it's a like logical, like language
it is.
thing. We never grew up that way, right? The people who are growing up now, the young ones that have that, they don't have to like reprogram it all, you know?
Well, and that's with all of this stuff that we're doing, right? And when I talk about childhood wounds and conditioning, it's what we've always been taught, what we know, and it's having to make this conscious shift towards something different. And so thank you for catching me and not recognizing that, because I know that about you. And so thank you.
It's just automatic, right? You're used to introducing
Yep.
women in female bodies, and it's all good.
Yes. And it's funny because even as I said that, I felt something and then I just kept going. And so I think even in that moment, I was like, So I am grateful that you said something. And I hope that's a lesson for everyone, and how you even said it compassionately back to me, because you can get upset about that, but
Right.
we're all trying to
Yes.
learn here. So I
We're
appreciate
all
your compassion
we're
for
all
me and slipping up and truly wanting to honor that for you.
Thank you. I think for me, I use the pronouns. My niece called me out actually on it. She was like, "Well, how do you label yourself, or how do you want to be known?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gender fluid." And it was so clear in that moment. She pulled it right out of me. And but she was like, "But you don't use pronouns and nobody knows." And it was like this part of me was hiding, and it just
Mm,
felt like it was like this calling to use the pronouns to create space for others who
yes.
may have deeper wounds, or it might be a real charge for them, and that me just being myself and opening the space creates space for others to be more authentically them.
Well, and I love that. And to just be aware, because something like that, if that doesn't impact me, it's not at my top of mind, right? And it's one thing when it actually impacts you, you're more conscious of it, you're more attuned to it. And I think
Yeah.
this is just a good reminder that just because it doesn't directly impact you doesn't mean it's not important to be keeping it top of mind. And so,
Yeah. And
oh,
I think that's
not
the
where I was
part that I
expecting this to
wasn't.
go, but here we are. We all just got a very
There we go.
good
I,
lesson on intentionality and being mindful and all of those things. So thank you. Sometimes it's not so great to be completely unscripted in that regard.
it's all good. Well, I figured, I was like, do I correct or what? And I just,
Yes,
it was
yes, you
just like,
do.
spirit was just like, just let it flow, and it flowed back around, and you gave me the opening, so there you go.
Mm, I love this. Okay.
So, but like
Oh,
outside of that, let's just leave that for that, because that's like a whole rabbit hole we could go down. But you
yeah.
were talking about my journey, and yeah, I've made a lot of transitions, and one of them, I mean, think when I was 19 or 18, I asked my dad what I should do with my life, because I didn't know. I mean, who knows what you're supposed to do with your life? And we kind of logically went through it. We were like, okay, well, this is a good career, and that, and this will make good money. And
Uh-huh.
he was like, okay, engineering will make good money. And I was like, okay, I'll do that, because I didn't know what else to do, and I didn't know who I was. And so I did that. But it was really like very scripted, very logical, very in the box. Lots of male dominated and oriented just energies, and I just felt so disconnected. And I did a life balance wheel with Dr. Phil back in the day. Like that was my
Really?
first kind of perfect like self-growth, personal growth thing.
Oh, I love it. Dr. Phil.
But the spirit was like a 2 on that wheel. And I was just like, maybe
Wow.
that's a clue, you know? It was just like, okay, because I didn't really resonate with religion growing up. I would go into church, and we would come out of church after listening to a sermon, and I was so bored. It didn't resonate with me, and I would count like bricks on the wall because I was just like trying
Yeah.
to not fall asleep. But when I came out, like people would literally cut each other off in the parking lot, and I was like, I didn't understand. I was like, okay, like love one another and all these things, these good messages, and it didn't play out in practice, and I didn't understand
Ooh,
it.
that just gave me goosebumps.
So spirituality, I just didn't understand. Like it was religion to me, and so I didn't know how to connect into spirituality, and that journey has been so rich and full.
Yeah. Yeah. It really has. When do you feel like was that moment almost, or something that shifted in your life where it kind of broke that open and you really started to explore it and kind of doing that internal work?
Yeah. One of them was I was at work and I was on a job site and I didn't wear my hard hat, and I kind of had a knowing that I should wear my hard hat, and I went over to this other side of the site, and they were putting up a safety fence, which is meant to protect people. We were programming robots, and everything that moves on in there, you're not supposed to be inside. But the safety poles were being set up, and one of them literally fell down, and it hit off something else, and it hit my head. And it was just I was always protected. I had that sense of knowing, but I had an ambulance ride, I had stitches, and it was just like this, like, if I can die while I'm doing this, there has to be something better that I can do with my life than this.
Ooh. Ooh. Those moments, right? Like sometimes I always refer to them as tower moments, but when something literally falls and smacks you, it's like, wake up.
And it was like a safety pole. It was like external safety. Like you're not, like if you think you're safe hiding
Oh,
out here, it was deep.
wow. That's this kind of stuff that I love talking about on here, because what a direct message, right? But how many people would just see that as literally what it was and miss the message in that,
Mhm.
right? Like, oh, this thing happened to me. Like, oh, no, 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 no. And you received that message fully.
It happened for
Wow.
you. Yeah,
Yes.
it took some doing to digest it, but it just shook me to my core, and I was like, I can't keep going like this.
Yeah. So what happened after that? Where'd that take you?
Well, I went on a journey. I started exploring from different thing to different thing. And one of the key pieces that was really cool was I did an alpha course. And I don't know if you have ever heard of it, but they do dinners. And I was at this non-denominational Christian church because I was searching for different ways to find God, to find spirit, to connect.
Yeah.
And at this church, people would just like, you could feel the spirit pouring in, and people were open and they were singing and they were joyful. And I was like, okay, like this lines up. This makes sense. And so they offered this alpha course, and you read the Bible and you have dinner together, but you ask questions about it, you discuss it.
Right.
It became a living text. It wasn't just like by rote reading and like tuning
Yeah.
out and trying to memorize. It was this thing, and we had a retreat, and they asked you to like open the door. It was like this little, and I just like imagined it in my head, and I was like, okay, open the door and invite the Holy Spirit, God, Jesus. I think it was the Holy Spirit specifically that we invited in. And I just felt like this rush, I can't even describe it, of love, energy, emotion run through my whole body. And I just cried and sobbed and felt it all, and love and joy. And it was just everything. The words just really can't describe it. But that was kind of
Wow.
my initiation into what it means to have a real experience with spirit, you know?
Ooh. Yeah, that'll change things for you. And once you feel that, right, it's hard to go back to normal day to day kind of autopilot living, right? When you know that
Yes.
that is out there and that feeling is out there. And what more could that lead to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's like
Woo!
there's like a inner compass, I guess, is what I started to really realize, that like when
Yeah.
I followed it and I would find the clues and like this book or this workshop, and the more I did that, the more I found experiences and people that really aligned with who I was on the inside.
Well, and I think when people listen to so many of these episodes, it is that there are clues along the way. we are receiving breadcrumbs all the way, but you have to be awake and aware to it and be looking for them or ask for them. Because otherwise it does sometimes
Yes.
feel like we're alone. And if we don't have that connection to something, I feel like that's where that depression or hopelessness sets in, because you don't feel connected. It feels like you're lost, but really all of that is right there for all of us at all times. And when you can start to pick up on those little breadcrumbs, it's like, ooh. And I feel like the more you notice them, the more you get, right? God and the universe are like, oh, they're noticing, they're awake now. Let's give them more. Let's give them more. And that can sometimes speed up this journey and this process, because we're no longer resisting it and no longer walking around with this blindfold on and trying to find our way through the dark.
Yes. I got
Yeah.
messages in the last few days, like 11, 11, 20, and 11, 22 is kind of like my sacred number. And so I thought of you and all the numbers and the signs
Yeah.
and everything along the way.
Awesome. So you are an engineer. This whole thing happens. You have this divine intervention, this feeling come over you.
Oh, and I will say, because for anybody listening, if you're just feeling like you're lost, right? And you don't have a purpose. For me, it kind of also came to a breaking point where I was crying myself to sleep at night because there was so much pressure to perform and to get things right. And I didn't want to make a mistake and make something wrong or hurt somebody. Because as an engineer, we take an oath, we have an iron ring, and it's to serve society. And that's really kind of, I think, what really called me into that role. But the way it was coming through was so much pressure and I didn't know how to handle it. And at some point, I remember I was working in an automotive factory and it was very greasy and dirty and dull and not connected to nature at all. I would walk around with a hard hat and like safety boots, and I wasn't connected to anything feminine in my life. And then guys were catcalling and whatever. And that night when I was crying myself to sleep, I was like, there has to be something more to this. Like, universe, like somebody please show me. And that's when things started happening. So sometimes we just have to ask. And you don't necessarily have to hit that breaking point. You just have to say with your heart and your emotions, like, hey, please show me something different.
Right. And I think while we may want something different on this deeper subconscious level, we're also afraid of, okay, that sounds great in theory, but what would that actually require me to change in my life? And for
Yeah.
you, that could mean a completely different career path than what you've known and how you've identified yourself. And for some, and for me, it was the same thing with career, but also relationship. And so, yeah, I wanted, what else is there? Is there something more? It feels like there's got to be something better, something more. I was like, well, there is, but that's going to require some work on your part. And you're like, well, can we do it within the confines of my comfort zone? And then like, sorry, it doesn't work that way. You're going to have to get real uncomfortable if you want the change that you're asking for.
Yes.
So how did you do that? Because that's a whole nother level of work to start to feel, ooh, I felt your word come through, like in this different frequency, right? It's a matter of, we talk about nervous system regulation and frequency, and then really not that they're the same thing, but I feel very much they go kind of hand in hand, in that I can be at this higher frequency, but if I don't feel energetically safe in it, or my nervous system doesn't, it's like, ooh, there's this push and pull. And
Yeah. The more recent kind of layers that have unfolded starting kind of April this year, Spirit really guided me home to presence. And I think this is the part that's relevant right now because the times are speeding up. Schumann resonance, energies are getting stronger. There's like just solar flares and so much planetary alignments, and everything is just like the soup that now humanity is at the edge of this place where we can like, it's not just a transformation, we're metamorphosizing, right? We're the caterpillar in the goo and we're going through so that we can emerge as a butterfly. But the big thing is presence. If we're not able to come home to ourselves and to a loving relationship with ourselves, a loving enough relationship that we can be present to whatever's there. And so there were some things that I was just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll deal with that later. That I was doing this program called Ultra Presence with Juan Pablo Barahona, and he's from Costa Rica. And he just like, he's like, breathe in the sweetness of life and then relax and just let go and like allow it to be in your cells. And there was just something about how free he was in it, and how he was just saying like, it's already done, and we're just right here in this moment. And
Mhm.
so I just started to just be present no matter what was there, no matter what I was feeling. And then I would start to notice, oh, my mind is judging this, but this is what I'm actually feeling. Like, or if I would eat Doritos and watch Netflix on the couch, instead of shaming myself for it, I was like, okay, so obviously there's some uncomfortable emotions here that I don't want to feel. And so I would start to get more curious, and I'd just be like, okay, what is actually here? And that presence opened a doorway to a whole other
Mm.
level of being in relationship with myself in the present
Ooh.
moment.
Ooh, I love that. And it makes me think back to, because you were in Door County, right? Because I'm thinking back to the dock. You,
Yes,
yes.
yes,
I
yeah,
was
we
thinking
had
it
two
was just
retreats.
Mexico, but it was Door County too. And that experience, you were a part of that for me. Because that was when my whole leg was swollen again.
Yeah.
I remember like I couldn't barely walk, and you guys were having to carry my luggage up for me. And I was not happy, but thank goodness I was with all of you. And I remember being out on that dock our last night, and we had to have a backpack full of rocks, and we had to write something on, each one, like a little tag of the things that were weighing us down that we wanted to get rid of. And I still have the video of it. I might actually see if I can pull it together when we market this or promote it, because I will never forget the video being like, unfuckable frequency.
Yeah. And
That
you
was
just
your
hurling
thing.
those
And like,
rocks.
yeah, and just chucking them into the lake and just being like, I'm done with this. And just thinking like, these are all these low vibrational things that we've been carrying around, weighing us down. And there was something really powerful of just physically getting rid of that. But I will never forget that unfuckable frequency. It was just to think about that. And as you talk about all these changes, and I would love for you to dive more into like the Schumann resonance and all the things. There's a lot of people that have like, what did she just say? What are we talking about? I follow that stuff. And so I'm like, oh, that makes sense of why I'm feeling this way. But that's so key. It's how do we hold this frequency? And like you said, being this sturdy presence where we're not just like wishy-washy in our energy. And how can we hold this knowing that this is actually
Mhm.
what we're being called to do?
Yeah. Yeah. So this was the whole kind of doorway that opened for me. And it's funny because it was actually a health program that I had joined that I thought would, quote unquote, solve my hormonal issues and perimenopause and all this stuff that was coming up for me. And what I found was that I had a lot of tools. I understood what my sensitivities were, all these things, but I didn't have the emotional support to go there. And it didn't feel like it was a safe space for me to really address what was underneath all of what was going on in my body. And so it just was like, I call it the health portal because it just opened up this whole other door. And presence was kind of like this place where we could step into, and then things would open. And this is kind of what I'm going to teach next week in the Lightworker Strong challenge, because if we want to be lighthouses in the light, we need the tools to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And presence was the first one. And then we need to also like bad energy hygiene is going to be the new smoking coming up.
Ooh, I
So if
love
you don't
that.
have meditation, if you're not grounding yourself, if you're not really, there's also something called coherence. And if you're not tapping into those moments that made you feel so alive and like re-energizing them in the morning and getting yourself into a state of coherence, then you're just kind of agreeing with what's around you and the reality and just letting it suck you in. And we cannot really longer agree with the reality of what's happening around us. I mean, who wants to live in this turbulent, yeah, because old systems are just dying. So we want to be able to be that lighthouse and have our light clean and aligned. And I mean, we're not perfect, but the more we can come back home to that coherence and that resonance, then the more we can really be that light and that calm in the storm.
Yeah. Ooh. let's talk about this energetic hygiene, because we think about, like, we brush our teeth, we wash our face, we shower, we do all these things. But when it comes to our energy, we are not taking care of that, and we are not protecting it. We're not clearing it. And I
Mhm.
noticed that has been a game changer for me over the last few years, was learning more about that. And as I've continued to heal and evolve, like, that's gotten even more so, where I've had to become even more discerning about who gets access to my energy and how I need to protect it. And like you said, like, tapping into those things when you're starting to feel you're on that way down, like, whoa, where's my anchor here? What can I tap into to bring myself back to that higher vibration?
Yes. Yeah, because one thing I would say, it's about entrainment. So if two people are in the room or a bunch of people are in the room, everybody will entrain to the frequency. And it's the skill of the light worker, empath, healer, awake individual who wants to help change the world, whatever label you go by. It's the skill to be able to entrain to your soul's frequency and have other people entrain up to that, rather than you just going
Mm,
down. Like,
yes.
because I used to be so empathic, I would just match people's frequency.
Yes.
I mean, my mom was a nurse. She was very empathetic, very heart open, but she was always kind of in other people's frequencies, and that's the model I had. I love her to death. She had so much compassion for everybody, but she didn't have the tools. She didn't know how to clear her energy and stay in her own space. And so I think a lot of emotional eating and everything that I learned from her was just to deal with the energies, right? And so if we can keep our energy clean, and then we don't even really need to have to numb out and all that.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Is that a woman actually messaged me last night out of the blue. She goes, "How did you go from eating entire pizzas in your car to where you are now? Like, that doesn't make sense. How does that just happen?" I'm like, "Well, it doesn't just happen. There was a lot of freaking healing that went into that." But it is something about that. The more I have done this healing work, because so much of my journey, I was always exercising. And granted, I had a very complicated relationship with food, but really for the last 10 years, I had a like, I learned a lot, but I was pretty consistent. So not a lot had changed on the surface.
Mm,
Energetically
yeah.
and healing, holy crap. Where it's like, I don't feel called to those lower vibrational things anymore. I don't like the foods that used to call to me, even alcohol. Like, I just don't have a desire for it. I don't have anything against it. But my soul's like, no, we're not there anymore. We're not doing that anymore. There's just things that are certain low vibration that it's like there is a wall that I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this weird built-in, like, extra subconscious where it's not something I have to fight anymore. I don't have to willpower my way through it anymore. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, is when you clean up your energy, or when you've healed these childhood wounds, which all of that is going to clear up your energy and increase your frequency, it shifts something in you internally for real. And that's where you see real lifelong change. It's not this program that you went on to lose weight or whatever. Like, there's something that internally shifts in you, where those same things you're not drawn to anymore.
Yeah. It's deep level. I got goosebumps when you were talking about that, because it's deep level transformation. It's a shift energetically and on the frequency level. And then when your frequency stabilizes at a different frequency, then you're attracting different opportunities to you. And yes, there might be levels that need healing and stuff as you up level your vibration in your life and your vision.
For real.
But I think, like, that's pretty freaking cool, right? For me, I used to be an engineer living in Toronto in a bachelor apartment on the water. Like, that was even an up level from the first part where I lived, like, in in a house, but it wasn't like anywhere near water or nature, and I didn't have a dog. And so, and then the next level, we moved to Aruba, and now I get to walk on the beach every day. And so, I don't
Ooh.
know, it's just this continual cycle, but it's your internal frequency that really drives it.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, you had mentioned too, the last eclipse kind of rocked you a good
Yes.
one. And I am right
Oh, it
there with
did.
you. I'm
It
right there
did.
with you. And even the last full moon we had the week before it, whoa, super sensitive to that. And it's nice when you find your fellow people that are sensitive to it, because you're going through it and you can feel those shifts. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And that's when you can start to see again, it's not that you just had a crappy week. Like, when you're attuned to this stuff, you can at least learn to work with it or to honor yourself through it.
Yeah.
But again, just being in tune to the energy that's out there. So if you want to share a little bit about what your experience was like over the last couple of weeks, because it sounds like there's been some big shifts for you.
Yes. Yeah. So right before the solar eclipse, like 2 days before on a Friday night, I had been just kind of doing my thing all week. I've been birthing this challenge. And I think there was twofold. There was the energies of the time. And I literally was in bed. I couldn't really move too much. I didn't want to eat. I just drank water. I wasn't like sick, but it was like an energetic sick. And if you're attuned enough, you can feel the frequency changes before they actually kind of happen and settle in. And I hadn't actually felt that since 2017. I went to Denver when they had total eclipse alignment and
Oh, yeah.
everything was like 90% darkness. And I was like way up in the mountains. And when I got home for 2 weeks, it was just like my energy hadn't yet caught up to all the transformation, all the frequencies that had been downloaded. And so we can get like kind of sick if we're not able to hold these higher vibration frequencies. So between the eclipse and me birthing this new challenge and holding space for people to come in and own their light, it was just like I didn't even really have to know exactly what everything was about, but my body just needed to shed all these old energies, and it just needed time and space. And I was watching Love is Blind and just like chilling and not doing much, but it was necessary. And I can see now like the flow I'm in is because I allowed myself to go there. And that's where the presence and the loving relationship come in, because you have to love yourself enough to be like, okay, like it's okay. Because the first week I was kind of just out. And then the second week I was just like, just do like one step and don't book anything extra. Just do this step. And then like that was it. So I couldn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, it's real. It will literally take you out. And I have to honor this. Like, I don't know what this is, but source is telling me that you need to still and chill and all those things. And I will never forget when I went to my first healing retreat, they had talked about how some of this work is like running an energetic marathon. And so you think about if you were to run a marathon, how exhausted you would feel afterwards. But it's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't run, but energetically, like you said, when you're releasing all of this old, stuck, stagnant energy, that is exhausting. It can feel physically exhausting sometimes. And I have a group healing coaching call thing that I do once a month. And when the women got on there, and this was just like 2 weeks ago, so it was right around in that time period, they all kind of came on with that same energy of just like, I can feel something shifted, like something just feels off, and I'm really tired. And then it just hit me because I was thinking about what it was like coming into, because that was a Sunday night we had that. And I was thinking that whole week leading up to that was kind of how I felt. It was just this weird, like, I don't know how to explain what this feeling is. And all of a sudden it just clicked. It was like, oh, we have all just kind of jumped timelines on this new frequency, but we are not attuned to it yet. We are still trying to get used to it. And so it almost felt like it was more exhausting because we're just like, ah, ah, ah. I can think of like a baby who's just constantly moving, right? Well, that no wonder they sleep so much, is because they're nonstop moving. But when you're almost like vibrating in this way to try to get settled and grounded in it, we hadn't done that yet. And so it almost felt, I don't know how to explain it, if that makes any sense at all, but it just, that resonated with me, like, maybe that's what was going on. And we just all needed to get grounded in this new frequency because it felt unfamiliar. It felt like, what is going on? What is happening? Like, oh, okay.
I love that you said new timelines, because it's kind of and new frequencies. We're calling in new timelines as a collective on the earth, and things are shifting, and people are talking about something called bifurcation, which basically is like two timelines shifting apart, and they're getting more and more polarized. So we see more and more polarization in the world. And so as these go, it's really our frequency. Our frequency will help us to choose different, more aligned timelines. And so the more we care for our energy and the more we support our nervous system, then the stronger we are and the higher vibration timeline we can end up on because we're a match to it. And if we're not a match to it, then we end up in a different timeline. And there's no right or wrong. It's just as we're learning, like it's all earth school. We're all evolving and we're all learning how to master our frequencies and our evolution and really like the life that we want to create.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the timeline thing, do you feel like that helps explain too why all of a sudden, whether it's just opportunities can drop out of your life, but it can also present, but also people? And when
Mm-hmm.
people notice that, rather than taking it personal, be like, oh, well, we're not at the same frequency anymore. Again, not better or worse. You're just not at the same channel anymore. So it almost is like
Yeah.
they're not even there.
Yeah. There can be static at first and then they can kind of just disappear. And yeah, it's like we're all tuned to whatever frequency. And I have to say, the gene keys has been something that's really helped me to align with my soul. There's a lot of different modalities out there, but it's one that's specifically called to me. And so when I offer the Lightworkers Way program, the first thing I do with people is work with their gene keys.
Oh, good. I was wondering that because I remember when you and I had the session, that was the first time I had been exposed to gene keys. And I was like, what? It's kind of like human design on steroids on a whole other level of getting to know who you truly are. I mean, we're talking like way far from like personality tests and things like that. This gets truly to the core of who you are and why you are the way you are. And if you want to elaborate on that.
So the Lightworker Strong challenge is getting us to a place where we can actually hold our light. And doing the nervous system work, doing the healing work, it's going to be giving us tools so that at the end we'll be like, okay. And then the Lightworkers Way is the path that I open up after that. That's kind of my paid container where I work with people. And the first thing we do there is the gene keys. Richard Rudd downloaded it. And it has the human design. If you've never worked with human design before, it gives you a structure and how to operate according to your design, how to make decisions. It's like the bones of the system, let's say. And the gene keys are like more feminine in that it flows, it brings in the spirit, it brings in contemplation and questioning. And so when I work with somebody, I'm kind of just holding space for them to align with their gene keys. And I call in their guides and my guides, and we see what is the next thing that wants to come through for them and what's blocking them. And we start to work in that area. And so it's just this pathway for them to, and this is what I feel like is my calling and my mission in the planet, is to help people come home to that level of soul guidance and design. Because the cool part is, as I've been doing this work for myself, it's like I'm in a freaking computer game. Whatever I need just pops into my reality. How we're talking today, Spirit was like,
Yeah.
no, do it Sunday. And then it can go out and then you can share it for everybody who's coming and call the people in that need to hear the message. So that's been happening. And then like people come in. 2 friends were here in Aruba who are also clients this past week. They want to birth a retreat center in Aruba. We did sacred land healing and water ceremonies, and I held space for them. And then we just visioned together. And I was like, this is my work. I am working
Right?
this week,
Yeah.
like it is so freaking cool. I just want everybody to be able to do that, to have such alignment with your soul that it's not work. It's bliss. It's blissapline, but it's bliss.
Well, and for everyone to know that is possible for everyone, depending on your frequency, depending on those timelines, depending on
Yeah.
that soul evolution that we allow ourselves to do. But if we keep ourselves stuck in this timeline of the 9 to 5 of this whatever and never allow ourselves to think that something like that could be possible, like I could never do that for work. I could never just move to Aruba. Like that's we're going back to the very beginning of conditioning and all of those things and those self-limiting beliefs to think, no, these timelines are available and accessible to all.
And we just have to choose it. We have to make the choice. And I have a story coming up where I went to I don't know if you've heard of T. Harv Eker. He had something called Warrior Camp. So back in 2008, I felt this call of like, okay, I really want to do this. And so I flew from Toronto out to Squamish, BC, and I met Soul Sister right away. We were in the tent together. She's from Australia. We would just giggle all night. We had such a blast. At this warrior camp, it became really clear to me. I was paying attention to my intuition, and it was just, you just have to leave your job. You just have to take the leap and step into the unknown and do something different. And so I committed with them that by the end of the year, and this was in July of 2008, that I would leave my engineering job. And so I think that was like 4 or 5 months that I had. And so I literally, I had not talked to my husband on the way home. I get home and he's like, I got a job interview and we can move to Savannah, Georgia. And so I committed in front of that whole group of people, and then Spirit provided the way, because then I just moved with him to the US, and it was like, I quit my job, but everything else was provided for me. The pathway opened up. But I made the decision, and I made it from this level of, I have no freaking clue, but I'm doing this 100%.
Ooh, man, it is so funny because I was telling you earlier about this reel that I saw on Instagram about change, and that we think that it's going to take forever, but it happens the moment you decide. It happens the moment you decide, and then things can open up for you. But it's like sometimes we say we want change, and then immediately we like flinch because that feels scary. We're not used to what that feeling could be like, even just to imagine, right? Sometimes I tell people, like, just put on the coat, try it on. What would it feel like to be in a different job? What would it feel like to be in a more fulfilling marriage? What would it feel like? Allow yourself to actually just feel it energetically. You don't have to just go and jump and quit your job, but just, can you even allow yourself? And some people can't even do that. We're stuck there because it's like, well, if I get a little taste of it, then what's going to happen? Then things are really going to have to change. I'm like, but that's what you were asking for. Like, and it's this thing, but so it's just recognizing that of when I spoke it into existence and I got really clear on what it is that I wanted, things opened up where it maybe wasn't so scary. Those changes weren't so scary because it was so clear that this is what you are supposed to be doing and that you would be guided and supported.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times since I have met you, especially because you met me, I just moved into this apartment when we started that program. So you saw me through a pretty tough year of transition and learning how to navigate life on my own and things that I was working on during that program. Opening a gym, not on my radar then. There were so many things, but it's just like getting clear on like, okay, I needed something big. And I remember last November, or actually it was after our big financial divorce meeting. And I'm thinking like, okay, I need something massive in my life to change in order like to support this and my kids and family and things. And it was a month later that like, hey, you want to open a gym? And granted, I'm still in the thick of trusting that process, right? Because we're just building and nowhere, I'm not anywhere near digging myself out of that hole. But I have faith in it. That didn't just come, but it's like, it's trusting this next layer and these next things to open up for you when you just speak it into existence, that like, I'm ready for change and I won't try to hold on, because the more we try to hold on to life as we know it in that comfort zone, you don't make any room to receive.
Exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you white knuckle it long enough, I don't know about you, but Spirit will kind of take it away from me.
100%. Yeah. And not always the most fun ways, right?
The
You think
safety pull
about,
on the head, like,
right?
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and even I think back to my previous job, I was able to leave on my terms, but it got to a point where like I didn't want to leave that way and in that energy, but I should have left months ago. It just got to a point where I got so uncomfortable that I had no other choice. But like that could have ended even worse, but it could have ended better too. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not the way that my energy, I want to leave that. But it was like, well, then you should have left months ago when we gave you the million other signs when this wasn't working and aligned in your life. And we do that. It's sometimes the more we resist that tower, the harder it's going to come falling down.
Yeah. And I think as we align too, then it can become more gentle. Like my last transition out of a job, I would have hung on longer, but they literally just stopped paying me. They didn't have the funds. I was just like, well, I guess this well is drying up. So, and that was really like the impetus for me to be like, okay, like this is a real business. And now I call it my blissness because it's really the
Oh,
bliss in my soul being birthed through me. But
love
it's
that.
real, but I had to really make that commitment to it, and I had to treat it as a real thing and a real entity and something that I'm cultivating. There was a healing point for me. I was doing a program called Certified Source Leader with Darla Ledoux. Um, and she asked me a couple questions on retreat in June of 2024, not this year, but last year. And out of my mouth tumbles something to the effect of, I just want to be responsible for what I fucking well want to be responsible for, not for what the world wants me to be responsible for. Because I was this like really responsible kid. And this is where the childhood stuff comes in. My brother was born legally blind. And so he could see light and shadow, but there was just, and he wasn't like he was super smart. And I think he was 8 months when he was diagnosed. And it was just like this whole thing shifted in my world. And all of a sudden, everybody's attention went to him. And also, as I grew, it was like I wanted to be more responsible for him and support him. But also, there was just things that people assumed that I would do for him because he couldn't see it or he couldn't do it. And
Oof.
that level of responsibility carried forward so that I was always taking care of other people's responsibilities. And when I finally healed this default pattern, this childhood stuff, then I was like, oh, that opened this whole doorway for me to step into what I wanted to be responsible for. And what I'm birthing now is what I want to be responsible for. But without healing that, I just always kept, like, I was volunteering at a rescue. I was working at a university. I was doing all these things that were like soulful work and they were helpful, but they weren't coming from my soul. They were coming from other people.
Ooh, that's real. I know a lot of people can probably feel that. And again, knowing that that comes from some sort of childhood experience, childhood wound, and why it's still plaguing us as an adult, why we can't put ourselves first, why we can't make those changes, and why it feels so selfish. And you just kind of go through this battle. So when we talk about making these transformations, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but you have to be able to look at those patterns and what
Yes.
patterns are keeping me from doing this thing that I love. And that's come up for me so many times on this. And like you said too, like being able to hold that light and have capacity for that much, because I think over the years it's evolved from mindset work and all this stuff. And then now you realize, oh, this is actually energetic work and, dealing with childhood trauma and conditioning and things like that, but also on a very deep level of that nervous system regulation and how can we feel safe enough to be able to hold that, because I've had opportunities come in and completely sabotage them because I wasn't ready to fully hold that
Yes.
light and that frequency. And so I naturally just pushed them away. And then we beat ourselves up and we get in this whole cycle and it's like, whoa, wait a second. Maybe this is the work that I really need to focus on. And before I try putting out all these new programs and things, I need to get energetically safe in this feeling that I have the capacity to support these bigger goals and
Yes.
dreams. It's one thing to say them, it's another to energetically feel them and feel safe in them.
Yes. And I think there's a theme too of being able to look at these patterns because that's the starting point. And so if you even have a protective mechanism that won't let you look at the patterns, then that's the place to start, right? And be like,
Right.
okay, why am I always avoiding? Let's pull that thread
Uh-huh.
then and start to explore that. I mean, you just really have to be curious about it and treat it like it's like a game and an adventure and it's fun. Whatever I'm creating in the world, it's always like if I get stuck or stopped, even in creating this challenge, I felt so much pressure at the beginning because I felt like I had to produce so many people to come to this challenge. And if I didn't, it was like a failure and all these wounds were coming up around being rejected as a kid and
Oh,
everything. it was heavy, but I was like, okay, well, this is obviously what I need to work on, because like I'm not
Uh-huh.
able to stay in the vibration of birthing this challenge. And so if you're not able to look at what's going on for you right now, then look at why you can't look at it.
Right. Yeah. Go back a step further. Because, yeah, the information is there. All of a sudden, you start to put those pieces together like, oh, this is very clear on why. It's hard for us to look at that. But oftentimes it is this stuck pattern. But you make that connection and all of a sudden, boom, you can work with that, look at that, and now you're birthing this challenge for all of us. But you needed to be able to do that in order to then hold space for all the people that are coming into this challenge.
Yeah. I think sometimes we think it's going to be a lot of work or a lot of effort or whatever, but it's like, I don't know, you dive into the emotion, you make it cry a little bit, whatever, look at the pattern, and then there's so much freedom on the other side. That's the
Yes.
part that I think
Yes.
the more we're just willing to love ourselves through it, have fun with it, and then look, and then the other side is amazing. And
And that is so true. And I do feel like that is a big block for a lot of people is like they don't want to go in there. They don't want to open that basement door and see what's down there. Or it's like you're going into this scary movie. Well, you come out of the movie and it's like it's daylight out. It was a matinee. Like the sun is shining. Like,
dude, that's awesome.
so like just it's okay. But need to be able to go in there and be brave enough to go in there because with that knowing and to know when people have stuff come up for them, I get excited for them. Like, ooh, this is good. It means you're ready. This would have stayed stuck in your subconscious if you weren't ready to look at it and to heal it. So the fact that this is coming up, it's your inner child trusts you. Even your ego is like, all right, I'll let you look at this because otherwise it would block that. So when things come up, embrace that as like, oh, I must be ready to look at this. I must be ready to heal. And
Nice.
so maybe that's you need someone like you or I to be able to hold your hand through that and be like, this is okay. This is normal. Just keep going, And so you have those other light workers. But if you're not shining your light to show people that process and how that looks, they do feel kind of stuck in the dark and not sure where to go.
Yeah.
So,
I call it like the trust factor, right? Like it comes up and so spirit and our inner child, even our ego is
yeah.
like, it's trusting that this is the time. And so
Yeah.
it's then up to us to lean into that trust and to just like allow it and breathe through it. Like, yeah, definitely you or I, other light workers, wherever it is, like you can ask for support and for help. You don't have to do it alone. Cause I think
No.
that's a big part of what took me a lot longer was that I
Yeah.
wasn't vulnerable enough and open enough to ask for help when I needed it.
Right. Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to have some really solid friends along the way, but even to do like some of the coaching programs and stuff or challenges like this. You're like, I don't really need that. But I was not in a place to do that program with Amber. I had just moved out on my own and I was signing up for a year-long program. It was absolutely not the time to make that kind of investment. But I knew, no, I need this container. I absolutely need this container. And I don't know what I would have done without you women throughout that year. That was this one constant, steady supply of support that I had. I had these women holding my hand every single week. I honestly don't know what I would have done that year without all of you. And so, could I have managed and navigated on my own? Sure. It would have been a hell of a lot harder. And who knows where I would be or how long I would have actually delayed getting out the website and the podcast and all of these things. Like it just accelerated that because I felt so supported and grounded with love and this really positive energy and these people that brought this higher frequency for me to stay in and kept this container for me because otherwise I would have been yeah, you know where.
Well, I remember there was like a moment for me watching you go through it that it was like something like there was some resistance and then you just kind of clicked in and you started working on your website and you started building this flow and it was like I could feel you just go into this river of a current and like you were, I mean, I'm sure there's still stuff that comes along the way, but that it's like you aligned with your soul current and then that's when you get your mission and your work out into the world. And I mean, for me, I don't feel like I kind of really got into that current until like April, May of this year. But it's like once you kind of like find that, and I mean, you lose it at times and whatever, but once you find that, then things accelerate, and it's like spirit is supporting you. And I mean, spirit was supporting me all along the way, but I just needed to do more internal work to come home to a knowing of myself so that I knew what I was sharing.
Well, and I love that you say that about the current, is because, I mean, to me, that is spirit guiding us. Like, just go along the current. But we're like, no, I got to paddle upstream. They're like, no, you don't. Just go. Just follow this flow. Follow the current. You're like, no, but everything I know is back there. Everything I'm used to is back there. And you're trying to paddle upstream. And it's like, oh my gosh, just let go and flow. Oh, yeah.
Just let go of the
It's-
log we're holding on to and trust, right? It's like a trust fall.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people will say you need to hustle, you need to struggle, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's like
Ugh.
the old paradigm as well. It's going out
Yes.
and the alignment and the flow. It's so amazing. Like you can get so buoyant in spirit, in the universe, in God, that you don't have to analyze, control, manipulate all the old patterns.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, because there's been times throughout even this last year of like, okay, I'm now financially on my own, and what can I do to make money? And there's all these programs and things that I could do, like our workshops and all this stuff. And I'm just like, there's something where it's like, that's not what we're doing now, Tami. And it's like, there is an actual wall. And I've had to sit with that. I'm like, okay, is that my ego's creative way of avoiding the things of like fear of rejection? Or like, is it that? Or is it that that's just not the way that you operate anymore? And if you were to do work like that, you'd be right back into that kind of hustle and produce and all this kind of stuff. Whereas like if I just kind of sit back and allow. So I had to sit with that over this last week. There was a post that came up, and this woman was kind of calling that out of like, are you stuck in the divine timing, but using that as a block to, I was like, ooh, I'm like, I got to sit with this. Like, I was like, but I was like, no, I don't know if that fully registers for me, because it feels like there is this current. And if I were to try to go back to things that used to work in the past, I would be trying to go upstream. And that doesn't feel right
Yeah.
anymore. Even though I know those things could help, that's not how I'm being called to serve anymore.
It is like this deeper, it just keeps coming across as trust. I have a friend that swam with dolphins in the open water in Hawaii. And when she relayed the lesson for her, they all would swim around, and then they just had them relax into the field. And I think, I mean, we can hustle, but the message right now is to relax into that field, to trust that we will be held. The more I'm doing that, it's like these little pieces come in. And I had this other friend, Diana Barnes, she was teaching about fit for life. And it's like the no workout workout. And so she had all these archetypes of how you can go about and do it. And so I resonated with a few of them. One was like the Zen meditator. And so you have to be present before you kind of like feel connected. And the strength trainer, the joyful mover. So you just like joyfully moving along the path, dancing, whatever. And then the nature lover. And so those are the 4 out of the 6 she had that I resonated with. And so I just started going to the trail by the beach, and I would meditate beforehand. So I get the Zen in, and I was outside in nature. And then I would just put on my music and start walking on the trail. And the cool part in Aruba, they have like the strength training machines by the beach. And so I would do lunges and push-ups and pull-ups. So it's like all 4 of these things in like maybe 20 minutes. But my field would just get so expanded. I was like, okay, this is the whole way when we line up with our soul that we can do everything in our life, whether it's nutrition, it's workout, it's like the actual work. I recorded a whole bunch of videos while I was walking on the beach, and I just let my expression magic come through. And I just said, this is what I'm doing, because then I'm not thinking about how my hair looks and where I am and all this stuff. And it's just this whole other level of working.
I love that. So maybe I should have asked this question at the very beginning, because I'm assuming that there are some listeners that can identify or know what a light worker is, but there are certainly some listeners that are like, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And so going back to, how can people identify themselves as that? Like, just this everyday person, never heard that term before. what does that mean? And
Yeah.
maybe what would that purpose be for them?
Yeah, it's a good question. And people have so many different connotations and everything for it. I would say for me, a light worker is somebody who feels called to something more. And you might not know what that is, but you know that the reality that you're living in isn't serving you anymore. You want something different. You want to make a change. Maybe you've explored meditation before or energy work or something, or you feel like your intuition is starting to come online. You know things like all of these can be kind of like early clues as to, hey, I am not aligned with this reality anymore. If you look at the Matrix, when Neo was in the Matrix, there's all these people that are in the Matrix that are just working away in the Matrix.
Yeah.
They also are light workers, but they're like asleep and they're not aware that like there's something else, or they haven't hit a level of pain or desire that is like, okay, I want to make a change. I would say you don't necessarily need to make a change to be a light worker, but to actually step onto the path, you have to kind of hit this point of like, I want to do something differently. That was like my moment of there's got to be more than this, you know? Like, it doesn't mean I wasn't a light worker and didn't have intuitive moments and everything beforehand. But once that happened, it was like, it started me on the path of, okay, what is it that I want to do in the world? And I didn't know what my quote unquote purpose or mission or who I was as a soul at the beginning. It's just, you decide you want to take a step onto this path and then it unfolds as you go.
Right. Oh, I love that. And it makes me think too, someone just looking at their everyday life and like, okay, do I identify with that? Are you someone that people are maybe just naturally drawn to your energy?
Yeah.
And do people come to you for insights? Do you feel like you have lots to share, but sometimes like, I don't know if I should, but like, oh, I had this idea, but then, we can play it small because of wounding and things. But like sometimes it's those qualities where like there's a reason people are drawn to you. It's kind of like the moth to the flame. Like there's a reason that people are drawn to your energy, and maybe you don't quite know why that is yet, but you have something inside of you that is bringing these people to you, bringing these ideas to you so that way you can turn on that light. But then there's the whole fear of being seen, right? Or not dimming your light. And I've had many podcasts on that, but because that's hard. Okay, I can be this light worker. I understand it now, but what do we do if we got to turn that light on? Like what? And then to keep it on. Because I think that's where I knew that years ago, but throughout the last few years, like there's been times where I could turn it off or I got a dimmer switch on it. And I think this last year was me turning that baby all the way up, realizing there is no longer a dimmer switch on this. This baby is on all the time. If you don't like it, like here's some shades. And I had to get to that place because I was in and out and inconsistent in my light, inconsistent in my frequency. And I think that's where maybe some of these gifts or opportunities are being withheld until like, we need you to be grounded in this first. We need to be able to trust you with this, but you have to be at that frequency. You have to be able to hold that light and keep it on. Like, so there's times I'm like, I can feel myself dipping down. Like, no, this is your test, your challenge. And actually, when I was hosting retreat, I shared this on an episode a while back. When I was hosting our last inner child healing retreat, I get off the plane and I get an email, and I was basically being harassed, and then the emails kept coming. As I'm sitting in the retreat, and I got another one. This message popped up and basically calling me a fraud and that I'm not a healer and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting, there's women literally out front of me. And I knew in that moment, how can I maintain this frequency for them and not let this? It was an absolute test in that moment. And I was like, oh, and it really like ended up being a gift. Like this, yeah, very unpleasant message that I received from someone that I've never even worked with, but it was, can you maintain this frequency here for these women because you are here to serve, you are here to be their light worker, because now you're helping kind of light them up, turn their light on, so then they can go and shine their light for all these other people. But in that moment, if I would have let that impact me, that would have been a very different retreat experience, because that happened literally on night one. Like, Okay, this is fun. Great. As I'm getting off the plane. Here we go.
Yeah, and that's the power of our focus. Where are we going to put our attention? Like what? And that's where your why stepped in, right?
Oh,
I'm here
yeah.
for this. This little thing over here can like go away and whatever. I can deal with it later, but this is the work. This is the mission.
Yeah. It's almost like, are you sure you want to be on this timeline? I'm like, yes. Get
Yes. Goodbye. Thank you very much.
pink. Oh my goodness. So, well, we'll kind of start wrapping this up, but I want you to have the full stage to fully talk about this 5-day challenge. Whatever you want to
Mm.
share about it, whatever you think people need to hear about it, because I will tell anyone, just having known you for these last few years and seeing the incredible work and transformations that you have done, people would be so blessed to be able to work with you and to fully step into this. This is like next level healing and stepping into your power and purpose.
Yeah. And it was our mentor, Amber Sweener, who did the Soul Seed Awakening program with us. That's the container we were in for
Yeah.
like a year, right? Like 2023,
Yeah.
24. She sent me a message and she said, this is like requiring a new level of commitment from me and a new level of responsibility to keep moving forward day by day because the world feels heavy and there's like a lot of stuff going on. And this is like at the beginning of the year and it's only just kind of amplified and ramped up since then. So, I mean, I talk about a lot of things, but we're in a time period as of last November, 2024, where we entered the Aquarius age. Pluto entered the age of Aquarius. And so we've been hearing about it. There's songs about it, but it's basically like we're entering the spiritual kind of Renaissance era, but we're also being called to put it into action. A lot of
Yeah.
planets are in Aries energy. So it's like spirituality in action and we need practical tools. And so I was like, oh yeah, like it just clicked in that moment and it downloaded. It's like, we need to be able to tap into tools that are going to help us support us to be able to move forward and continue to move forward as things ramp up, as the pace quickens and the energy speeds up. So at that moment, I was like, I could call it Lightworker Strong. And it's not like necessarily strong about resisting things or being strong in a certain way. To me, it's like strong like bamboo. Like bamboo takes the time to grow its roots way down. And it doesn't really show a whole lot of growth right away. And it could take 5 years to grow the root system. But then it can shoot up like however many, like 80 meters or 100 meters, like
Ooh.
within the first year or whatever, the next month. I don't know the timelines, but it can shoot up really fast. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're like being called right now to really build a root system so that we can shoot up. And we're also not called to be strong oak. We can bend like the bamboo.
Yeah. Yes.
And so Lightworker Strong is in that way. It's like having that deep root system, having your nervous system, presence, connection. So all of these things kind of spirit guided me to in my own transformations and in work that I've been doing with clients in the Lightworkers way this year. And so as I've held space for them, all these lessons have come and it's just like this rich soil. And so the Lightworker Strong Challenge is really about giving you the tools so that you have the good energetic hygiene, that you're grounded in your light and you can really start to turn your light on and emanate. So wherever you are, if you feel called, just come. Just check it out. It's next Monday, October 20th, and it'll run every day at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Probably everybody's asking me what timeline, and I'm like, about an hour. It's an energetic transmission. It depends on who shows up in the field.
Yep.
And so you'll get it all live. If you need a replay, that's fine. I will be providing replays, but come join the fun. Come be in community with like-minded souls, see what it's all about. And I promise you'll walk away with at least one shift that like could change your life forever.
Ooh. And sometimes that's all it takes, right? One shift, one smack on the head from a safety pole could change your life forever.
Yes,
She's
exactly.
gonna do that to you, but energetically, she's going to give you something to just have it all click in place, or that one little shift that we need. And sometimes it's that one missing puzzle piece.
Yes. Or even the one person. Like, I mean, we connected in that cohort. We learned so much. We grew so much and transformed, but now here we are, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, I love it so much. Well, I am signing up myself. I will put the link in here for everyone else to sign up
Thank
and
you.
join you. And who doesn't want to be around this energy and this frequency? Honestly, it's just good
I
vibes
like to
all the time with
say
you. So, yes.
puppies, I try not to jump on people like and overwhelm them, but like I have like this little puppy energy as well as like the dolphin, like playful. So there will be good vibes. We will go deep, but it'll be fun.
And that's such a great way to say it, is that it's deep work, but you bring a lightness and a fun to it that people are like, okay, I can get on board with this. And that's a lot of this work, even childhood trauma work. You can do some of this deeper work, but there's a lot of joy in it and a lot of fun in it when you really tap into your inner child and what he or she loved. So yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that you and I are bringing into the world. And so thank you for stepping into your light and being this strong presence that this world absolutely needs right now, and helping other light workers turn their light all the way on, no dimming, so we can light this up, because you're right, the world is in need of that. So awesome.
Thank
Well,
you. Thank you
thank
for this
you.
space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime for you. So anything you want to leave people with? A little party message?
Well, I guess I was just feeling the excitement. I know this isn't really how people see the world right now, but as the external world is starting to fracture and crumble and all these places that weren't birthed in light are falling, I'm excited because it's like, this is what we came for. We get to now birth a new reality. And so what I'm being guided to is all the different ways that we can do that. And the Lightworkers Way program is, how do we actually join together? So now if all of us are lighthouses and we have our lights turned on and we just start to join together, we form a lattice or a web of light around the earth, and it just lights up. And we can create a whole different reality, and we don't have to struggle or fight or make the old one wrong. It'll just kind of dissolve, and it already is. It's already cracking and decaying.
Yeah.
So we just need to bring the light and allow the rest of it to fall away.
Ooh. All right. I love it. That's good. Bring the light. Be the light. Bring the light. I love it. Thank you so much. I can't wait to get this episode out there and have people join your 5-day challenge. So thank you again. And for those of you that are out there listening, thank you for holding space for us and this and the energetic exchange of pressing play and sticking with us to the end. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see y'all next week. Oh, that was fun.
That was so fun.